So first of all, a very warm welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today, taking time out. Sign of the times. I've got easily enough content today that we could be doing a full day workshop somewhere around the UK, and it would involve most of you getting up at ridiculously early o'clock as me. But we can do this from the comfort of our offices, our homes, wherever we are, which kind of is the first point that needs to be made today. Is that you think if you wanted to get everybody together for a real team meeting, or you wanted to put on a seminar for a client, it's going to take some organization. But something like this can be done, we could get this group together in a matter of 24 hours pretty quickly. So it's a sign of the times. Things are changing. A lot of it's outside our control, but that in itself brings us all sorts of opportunities. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully you can now see this. We've got, if we've got any more latecomers, we'll just let them in as they come in. So we've got this person here is not doing it. Okay, so let me know if you can't hear me, but I'm assuming that you can for now. So let's just go over here and move on. So what I'd love you to do, if you can, please, is to stick around to the very end. Don't worry if you can't, because you will be getting a recording. But if you stick around to the end, I will be doing a draw, and I will send hard copies of both these books to one of you who has joined us today. So please do stick around to the end. So a little bit of background for those that I've not met before. I've been in this fine industry, this profession, as it's increasingly called, since 1978. I didn't go to university, just did my A-levels and bummed around at home, basically, until my dad said to me one particular afternoon, "So what are you actually going to do for a living? You can't sponge us off us for the rest of your life." And I kind of got this vague idea that I wanted to do a bit of photography. I quite fancied the idea of maybe going on the stage, something like that. But I hadn't really got a plan. And my dad said to me, "No, you're not. You're going to get a proper job." Now, I say I was into photography. To be specific, I was into rock concert photography. I used to blag a press pass to go to the Hammersmith Odeon in London, the Rainbow Theatre, Wembley Stadium. Some of you will remember that. And I took this photo probably 40 years ago. Judas Priest, still going strong. Took this one in London 35 years ago. ZZ Top. Ted Nugent, and this was something I really enjoyed. Health and safety at rock concerts back in the 70s and early 80s, some of you may remember, wasn't quite what it is today. So the idea of me being a rock concert photographer was not exactly my dad's idea of my ideal career, hence the you're going to get a proper job. And then finally the day came where one of my favorite bands, Blackfoot, came to the UK. And they recorded a live album at the Hammersmith Odeon, and this was the album cover. And my greatest moment is that I was actually on the front cover of the album. I was taking photos, and the arrow is pointing to me there, and I thought, that's it, I've reached the pinnacle. I'll now go and get a proper job, having appeared on my favorite band's album cover. So I went down to the Dorking Job Centre. The nice lady there interviewed me for 10 minutes and concluded that I was ideal for pension scheme administration, and they could get me two interviews, one with Friends Provident at the bottom of Box Hill, and the other with a company called National Employers Life. And this is National Employers Life's headquarters, just outside Westcott near Dorking. And it's one of Henry VIII's weekend places. Absolutely beautiful place. I did about a month's worth of pension scheme administration until my boss said, "We conclude that that's possibly not for you, Phil. We think you're better off in sales." So I headed off to Croydon, where I learned to be a broker consultant, an inspector, as we called them back then. And for the next 20 years, I met 20 financial advisors every single week. We had to make appointments. None of this turning up with a wheelbarrow like the Standard Life guys used to do. We had to make 20 appointments a week, and that's what I did. And so over that 20 years, I met literally thousands and thousands of financial advisors. We called you brokers back then. The word IFA didn't really exist. Financial advisor existed. Financial planner existed. There were a number of wealth managers as well. But that was the job, to try and convince you guys to give your business to us. I absolutely loved it. Was eventually made redundant, and for the next 20 years, I became a kind of independent sales and marketing consultant to financial advisors. But in all that time, over those 20 years and now 40 years, there was one topic that financial advisors brought up over and over again, time and time again. And I still see it in our Life Talk forum on Facebook. I still see it in our financial advisors group on LinkedIn, and it's lead generation. Yeah, there's a lot of other topics that are brought up, but the same question comes up over and over again. What's the best way to generate leads? What do people think about unbiased? What do people think about vouched for? What do people think about referrals? This topic comes up in a variety of different guises constantly. So that's what we're going to talk about today, a bit about lead generation, but also about how do we add value to existing clients. But it's worth just reflecting a bit on what this year has taught us so far. Goodness knows there could be many more surprises around the corner in 2020, but there have been a few lessons that have been learned, things that I've observed, talking to financial advisors, watching what financial advisors say in our Facebook group. Clearly, communication has been critical. And during that period when the market went south very, very quickly, what was really interesting was the split between financial advisors who did nothing and those who were really quick to communicate with their clients. And even if that communication was just to say, hi, hope everything's okay with you, many of those financial advisors have told me when they made those communications, most of the clients were very positive towards them, positive in the sense that they said, I know the market's gone down, but I really appreciate you just getting in touch to keep us informed, to tell us that you're there if we need it. But there was a remarkably high percentage of financial advisors who absolutely did nothing. And there are still many financial advisors who have still not got in touch with their clients. And if there's one thing this profession is consistently not been very good at, and I appreciate this is going to be a broad brush remark, it's communication with clients on a consistent and regular basis through a variety of different means. And when the chips were down and things were changing fast, it was really important that financial advisors came over as human beings who care about their clients, not just experts who help their clients, but human beings who care about their clients. I think communication needs to be increased for a variety of different reasons. And that communication also needs to be creative, and that's partly why we're here today. Communication also needs to be sincere. I think we are well aware that there were a number of other industries, companies, corporations, who, yeah, they were very quick to communicate with us. And this kind of, this cartoon from Tom Fishburne kind of summed it up for me about, I'm sure all of you can associate with this, those TV adverts that we were seeing all the time, emails that we were getting out of the blue from brands that where we bought something many, many years ago and said, we are here for you. And if you have time, please do go onto YouTube and search for adverts from companies and organizations about how they communicated with clients during the early stages of the coronavirus, and they are all remarkably similar. What else has 2020 taught us? Well, turns out electronic financial advice works just fine. Over so many years, as we began to see the internet impacting our businesses, I spoke to financial advisors time and time again who used to cross their arms, frown a lot and say, no, financial advice can only be done face-to-face. Clearly, that's not the case. Clearly, there is always going to be a place for high quality face-to-face advice. And interestingly, that may well be a key differentiator as time goes by. What we've also found, though, is that a lot of clients absolutely love the fact that they can talk to their financial advisor quickly and easily and conveniently online. And they've been very quick to tell their friends that it is possible to talk to Sue Smith, John Jones Financial Planning online. So referrals, I'm being told by a number of financial advisors, have increased simply because they're starting to offer online financial advice and financial planning. I know of one lady financial planner who changed the cover header on her LinkedIn profile just to add the words "now offering" or "now providing convenient online financial planning." And she said she got 3 new inquiries within 3 days of putting that up. So here's a little lesson. Why don't we tell our clients that we offer this convenient service rather than assume they know that that's what we offer? This is all very well, though. Presenting online is a completely new skill. And it's really, really important that we start to get a grip around this. I'm in a number of professional speaker forums. And of course, the speaking and the events industry has been absolutely decimated. Just one thing, if you all could just check that you could mute your microphones, that'd be really useful. Thanks. So in a number of online forums for professional speakers, everyone's talking about the new normal and using online, but it's a skill that we have to learn. If you were going to be doing a real seminar, you really ought to be sprucing up your presentation skills. And if we're going to do online communications as well, whether that's just meetings with clients or a webinar or presentation or something like that, we need to just do a little bit on our online presentation skills. So we've got to get command of the technology, practice. Think about camera technique as well. You talk to any broadcast journalist, they'll tell you really do need to have your camera at eye level. In a lot of the consulting sessions I've had with financial advisors, the camera is either higher than their eye line or it's lower than their eye line. You really want to try and get it the exact same eye line if you possibly can. We're also going to need to spruce up a bit on our listening skills as well. We all know listening skills are really, really important, but the online environment is different from sitting across a table with a client. So we need to sort of work a bit harder, and there are plenty of resources on how to improve your listening skills. Also think about your environment as well. Yeah, it's great that we can be doing this from our kitchen tables or our back bedrooms. And it's been really amusing to see politicians presenting on Zoom, and you know, there seems to be a prize who's got the best bookshelf in the background. I've been working quite hard on using green screen more effectively. Some of the green screen backgrounds are a bit weird, so I've just tried to go for something that's a bit more officey. I've got my logo on the wall there, and it's, you know, it's not too over the top, hopefully nice and professional. And there are plenty of services that you can find online that will create customized green screen backgrounds. Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S is one way you can do that. Canva, C-A-N-V-A, has also got some ready-made templates that you can use for green screen backgrounds. So if you are using Zoom, Zoom enables you to put a green screen background as well. So what I'm saying is here, if we're doing this online stuff, let's think about the skills and the environment and the technique and the technology that we're using, and just sort of make sure that we up our game as much as possible. Finally, what else has 2020 taught us? I think we've got to be more strategic with social media. We've seen lots of people upping the pace a bit on their social media activity. Social media still, it's getting really noisy out there. So it's important that you have a plan if you're using social media. It's also worth remembering that social media is broadcast and noise. It is a very different thing from social networking. Back in the day, if you go back to 1998, that sort of period between 98 and 2003, the word social media didn't exist. We called it social networking. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that really this is where this technology comes into its own, where we use the technology to communicate, to interact and engage and support one another. That's networking. Social media is much more about broadcasting. And as I mentioned earlier, if we are now offering online advice, tell people. But a word of caution about using the words online advice. Increasingly, the words online are being associated with cheap. Now, we all like to save money, but we don't like to do cheap, okay? And online is often associated with cheap. And if you take, say, organizations like Facebook and Google, they are free to use. And they are free to use because you don't get any support. You need help. You have to take a month of Sundays. And simply offering online advice is now no longer a differentiator. 2 years ago, it was. 1 year ago, it was. Today, it's not a differentiator. So rather than saying we offer online advice, let's turn that into what is potentially more of a benefit to our clients, and think about other words. So we could maybe say we offer real-time advice. We offer on-demand advice. We offer advice and planning that is convenient and it's available as and when you need it. So just a small thing, and it's something that's beginning to crop up in a number of forums, that online, it's not a differentiator anymore, okay? In many ways, it's the ticket to the game, but let's just be careful about language that we use, because it can sometimes potentially decrease the perceived value of our proposition. So we still have this situation when it comes to a number of financial advisors. It's not just financial advisors, increasingly regulated industries, where there is still going on this idea that technology and social media really has no place in this profession. We've really got to get our heads out of the sand and move forward from that one. Some of you who've been on some of my workshops may have seen this particular one. I just want to show you this really very, very short video of a lady who's in she's in her 80s now, who used to just simply not be interested in technology at all. This lady is Beryl. She is my mother-in-law, and she would have nothing to do with technology whatsoever. But she knows that if you need answers to questions, you can go online and you can find them. In the old days, she would have gone to Yellow Pages if she needed a service provider. She needed someone to service a boiler or something like that. Today, she knows that you can go online to do that. But there was a day where, she would just have nothing to do with this. So my wife and I sort of thought, what can we get her for Christmas one particular year? And this is like 3 years ago. And this is Boxing Day. So on Christmas Day, we thought, let's throw in the deep end, and we decided to get her a tablet. Yeah, an interesting thing to do for someone who's simply not interested in technology. We thought, let's get her a tablet anyway. So I now want to show you a short recording of her on Boxing Day. So this is 1 day later.
Hey Google, pictures of the Queen on Christmas Day.
Pictures of the Queen on Christmas Day.
Oh, lovely. Oh, look.
Isn't that sweet? I just, I love that. It's, I'm very proud of her for getting stuck into it. And, she now has several tablets.
Okay, Google.
Thank you. Let's get rid of her. She now has several tablets. She has 2 laptops, and she uses interactive TV as well. So there is a sizable proportion of the financial advisor community who still believes that people of a certain age just aren't interested in technology, and we've got to stop that and get out of that mindset. Let me show you Elaine Milne, a financial advisor. I only spotted this on LinkedIn the other day. This is a LinkedIn post. She put, "We finally produced our very first video email for clients yesterday, and they love it. It's taken a while to pluck up the courage, but it was worth it. It seems they want more of the same. We can do that." And I said to her, look, this is fantastic. I've been talking and trying to encourage financial advisors to use video email for 2 or 3 years now. And that's usually met with, no, that won't work. So I asked Elaine the other day, what do clients say about your video emails? And these are some quotes from clients. "Lovely to see you. This is new, a welcome surprise." I know another financial advisor who is now has got a video out of office email. So, when you send that automatic email that goes to clients when you're on holiday or at Christmas, instead of the same old email, why not record a video message and just something simple. And I know a financial advisor the other day who recorded her. She was on the golf course. She set up her phone on the green, and she was putting. And she said in her message, "Thanks for your message. As you can see, I'm having a couple of days out." One more quick reminder, if any of you got your microphones on, please could you turn them off? I can hear one or two people chatting away in the background. So something new to consider, use video email. There are all sorts of tools to do that, but a really, really good one is called BombBomb. That's B-O-M-B, B-O-M-B. Just a quick couple of messages in here. Gareth's having his breakfast. Thank you very much, Gareth. No problem. No worries, Lee. We've got it now. Gareth also says, what platform would be suitable for video email? Well, you could record a video on your mobile phone, and you can upload it to Vimeo, or you could upload it to YouTube. Justin saying there, I like BombBomb. BombBomb's a little bit on the pricey side, but, Dub as well. Yeah, Dub's another great one. BombBomb's a little bit on the pricey side, but the service and the training they give you is absolutely superb. So video email, one to consider. Okay, let's move on. So let's talk about what is actually working for financial advisors when it comes to lead generation and marketing. And there are three big ones that just consistently work time and time again. Probably the most popular one amongst financial advisors is referrals. Most financial advisors tell me that, not surprisingly, that you offer a great service, you're going to get referrals. I've increasingly believed, though, over the years that we are becoming grossly over-reliant on referrals. And the vast majority of financial advisors who attract referrals don't actually have a referral strategy. They don't actually have a plan that is mapped out as to how to generate more and better referrals. Most financial advisors, referrals just kind of come in. Now, what if they stopped just coming in? And there's a reason why they might stop coming in as time goes by, which we'll talk about. So referrals are still very, very popular, but we're becoming over-reliant on them, and we need to really up our game. If I could recommend you do one thing as a result of today's presentation, even if it's you don't start thinking about webinars, I would strongly recommend that you get a book called Get More Referrals Now. Get More Referrals Now by a guy called Bill Cates, C-A-T-E-S. Bill is the world's leading authority on referral marketing, and his niche specialist market is financial advisors. So get yourself onto Amazon and go and get More Referrals Now. The other really big proven time and time again, and I go so far as to say the single most effective form of lead generation for financial advisors is seminars. Always has been, always will be when we're allowed to do them. We can't do seminars right now. Time and time again, seminars have proven themselves, and I can convince any financial advisor they should be putting on seminars, but at the back of their mind, they're thinking, yeah, but what if we don't get bums on seats? Isn't it a lot of hard work? Isn't it going to cost me money? I get all that. It's just a process. Follow the process. You'll get the bums on seats, make your presentation. It has to be done in a certain way, and you will get the results. I know financial advisors who consistently get conversion rates in the high 80%. I know one guy in Weston-super-Mare who used to consistently get 95 to 100% conversion rates from his seminars. And by conversion, I mean that's someone who's sitting in the room who either at the end of the seminar or a couple of days later gets in touch with him and says, I'd love to become a client. Seminars work, full stop. Unfortunately, we can't do them, so we'll have to talk about the next best thing, which is webinars. Your websites are potentially the most effective form of lead generation, but they are currently one of the most ineffective forms of lead generation for financial advisors. Website design for financial advisors is absolutely appalling. We've got some great people who are changing things, people like Phil Bray, a number of people you will know. There are one or two others, but most financial advisors' websites, they all say the same thing. They've all got the same imagery. Older folks sitting on deck chairs on the beach, older folks flying kites with their grandchildren, all this kind of absolute nonsense, which is meaningless to today's consumer. Your website should do one of two things. It should either add value to existing clients, or it should be generating new inquiries. Most financial advisors' websites are kind of somewhere in between. They're like an online brochure. And you've got to ask the question, why would someone want to read your brochure on a screen any more than read it on a glossy piece of paper? There is a way to turn your website into a lead generating machine. And we're going to touch onto this as we go forward. And I understand completely that most financial advisors don't necessarily want thousands of new leads being pumped into their business every single week of the year. I get that. What you're really looking for is high quality, a small number of high quality leads. And there are ways to do that. We're going to talk about that as we go. Now, there is one more. There is another way to generate leads. I said there were three, but I have to put in a case for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the single most powerful online tool for attracting new clients. If anybody wants to know how to do that, I've got a book on it. I do courses on how to use LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is just amazing if you know how to do it. LinkedIn at the end of the day is a bit of software. But like any other software that you use in your business, whether it's your back office system, your wrap platform, unless you've been trained how to use it, you will never, ever see the real benefits that LinkedIn has to offer. But I throw that in because it's really important. So if we go back to 2002, marketing was more about creativity than anything else. And this is a classic piece of marketing, which was done by Bic razors. And they created an outdoor advertising board, and they created this giant razor blade, and they even cut the grass. And this has gone down in sort of marketing folklore as one of the great bits of outdoor marketing. Unfortunately, you would only ever see that if you happen to drive past it or walk past it, or read the right marketing magazines. Today, if they were going to do the same thing, they would probably encourage you to help them do their marketing by taking pictures, take a selfie next to it, post it on Facebook, LinkedIn, and all the rest of it. So similar techniques, but brought up to date. And when I say brought up to date, we then are faced with this. Many people will have you believe that this is how financial advisors should be marketing their expertise these days. You need to have a podcast. You need to have a membership site. You've got to have your own Facebook group. You've got to have a regular email newsletter. You've got to have a blog. Yeah. You've got to have a YouTube channel. You've got to be instant. It goes on and on and on. And in the real world, you all know this is utter nonsense. This is utterly unsustainable. It is simply not possible. And one of the problems with social media, and I get this time and time again when people say to me, "Oh, Phil, should I be using YouTube because John Smith down the road is using it? Should I be using Twitter because Sue Smith's using it down the road? Should I have a Facebook group because so-and-so is using it down the road? Should I have a LinkedIn company page because somebody else is using it?" It really is unsustainable. The real key for financial advisors is to have a very, very clear idea of who their ideal dream client is. Go big, yeah? Spend time on this. Marketers call it creating your ideal client avatar. We've really got to focus on who is your absolute dream client, and then think about, okay, where do they hang out? Is my ideal dream client a member of our local golf club? In which case, that's where I'll go. Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? And then only focus your marketing attention on where they're actually going to see your marketing and where they will see it as added value. So there is far too much of this chucking content out onto the internet in the hope that somebody might read it and might want to get in touch with us. It is simply unsustainable. It does not work. Far better is, if you do want to put content out there onto the internet, is to actually sell it. Yeah, give it away. Take the expertise that you've got, turn it into something of value and sell it to people. But there are other ways to use it that are potentially more effective, which I'll come on to. Now, let me show you another glorious piece of old school marketing. My father died a few years ago. He was a dentist in practice in Dorking. Literally 4 or 5 weeks ago, my mother sent me in the post a little red leather book. And she said to me that when she first met him at the age of 19, 20, something like that, many, many years ago, he possessed a little red leather book, obviously produced by Gordon's Gin. And she said she never saw him open it. It sat in his bedside drawer for the entire time that they were married. She has no idea where he got it, and wondered if I would like to have it. And the reason why she wondered if I would like to have it was because a few years ago, well, quite a long time ago, I was officially the world's best gin and tonic maker. I entered a competition many, many years ago to the World Cocktail Making Championships. It was in a hotel in London. All the top bar men and women from around the world came. I entered the gin and tonic category and won it. Now, the reason I won it was because I was taught how to make the perfect gin and tonic by a gentleman by the name of John Tanqueray. Yep, Tanqueray, as in the great-great-grandson of Charles Tanqueray, who created Gordon's Gin. And I used his recipe, entered the competition, and won it. Now, when I received this little book, I was absolutely fascinated by it. And I got in touch with Diageo's archivist. Diageo own Gordon's Gin now. And I said to them, can they tell me anything about it? They told me this is 100 years old. It's a piece of marketing that was produced by Gordon's Gin to, yes, attract more people to buy gin, but also to add value to existing customers. So it is a little book full of recipes. How to serve a good cocktail, blah, blah, blah. What a lovely piece of simple marketing, properly old school. And I believe that we are reaching a time now where marketing is going back to this sort of thing, where our marketing is high quality content that attracts people to us, but also adds value to existing clients as well. Let's just have a quick look at a bit of history now as we start bringing this thing up to date, and have a look at what we used to do on the internet. If we go back to May 2007, the number one activity that we used to do on the internet was search for stuff. Search for porn mostly, but I've taken that line off the graph. But we used to use it, we used to search for stuff. But you can see the orange line there. We started to do something else. We started to visit social networking platforms. We have a late comer, send him in. We started to visit social networking platforms. And you can see pivotal moment in the history of the internet, just before April 2010, the number of visits to social networking platforms overtook number of visits to search engines. And with the benefit of hindsight, of course that was going to happen. Of course that was going to happen. We are now increasingly using social networking platforms as search engines. LinkedIn is a people and expertise search engine. Instagram is a photo search engine. Facebook is a search engine. If you go onto Facebook right now, you'll see time and time again. In fact, you go into the Life Talk group on Facebook for financial advisors, and you see financial advisors asking questions. Can anybody recommend this? Does anybody know this? We are using social media as search engines. But I wonder what happened next. So there we have visits to social networking sites overtaking visits to search engines. What happened next was that visits to messaging tools overtaking visits to social networking platforms. So by messaging tools, I mean Facebook Messenger, FaceTime, WhatsApp, all those kinds of things as well. So when human beings are given tools that help us to communicate and interact with each other quickly, cheaply, easily, and conveniently, we're going to use them. And that's why webinars are so powerful. Whatever you do, we need to get people onto our value ladder. Now, it's really important that we have a clear understanding about value ladders. The overwhelming majority of financial advisors do not have a value ladder. We're expecting people to arrive on our website and then purchase, and I use the word purchase in inverted commas, to purchase our top most valuable service. And that could be your full financial planning service. They don't know you. They may have had a recommendation. They don't know you. They've never heard of you before. All they've got is pictures of elderly people sitting in deck chairs on your website, and we're expecting them to have an instant, or wants to have an instant, high trust relationship with us. The internet is making that very, very difficult indeed. What do I mean by a value ladder? Let me give you an extreme example of a value ladder and how this leads into webinars. Let's take Tony Robbins. Yeah, Tony Robbins, big guru around the world, love him or hate him. But let's imagine you've never heard of Tony Robbins, and the first time you discover him is probably on YouTube. You'll spot one of his sort of stop your negative thinking videos, 30 minutes for the next 30 years of your life. And if you watch one of his videos and you like it, you'll watch another, then you'll watch another, and you'll watch another. The algorithm will pick it up, and YouTube will make sure that you only ever see Tony Robbins videos for the rest of your life. You think, okay, I like this stuff from Tony. It's quite motivational. It's making me change my thinking. What else does he do? So next time we're on Facebook, surprise, surprise, the algorithm has spotted with some retargeting, and we see that Tony's doing a Facebook live broadcast. It's free. So we thought, well, we'll sign up for that. That's fantastic. Great stuff. We enjoy that. We may even register for his newsletter, and then we'll go check out his website, and oh, surprise, surprise, Tony's got a new book out. It's about money. And yes, guys and girls, Tony Robbins is now stepping into the world of financial advice. And what you'll also notice is he's giving away that book for free. All you've got to do is pay for the shipping. That shows that you're a little bit more committed than people who just want the freebies. And as time goes by, you then start seeing adverts for he's doing a one-day event, and you think, oh, right, I think I might go to that. You're going to start forking out some money for this, but it's worth 60 quid, it's worth 150 quid, depending on where you're going to sit in the audience. You go along, you have a great time, you get motivated. A few weeks go by, a few months go by, and then you start seeing, oh, Tony's in town again, and he's doing a 5-day event. Now, this is going to cost you a bit more, but you've enjoyed it so much, you're getting a great deal of value from Tony, great insights in his newsletter, off his social media. You think, well, this is going to be worth me spending 3 figures of my hard-earned cash, and we go along, we have a great time, maybe we do some firewalking, we go onto social media, we tell all our friends how wonderful it is, we have a great time, and the weeks and the months go by, and then we discover that he's doing another event. Now, what's this one up? Now, this one's going to start costing you quite a few quid, but Tony's in your world now. He's changing your life, he's changing your thinking, he's making you move forward, and you think, okay, maybe I'm going to invest in the inner circle seats, the hot seats. Now, this is going to cost you at least 4 figures, but you're thinking this is well worth going to. You have a great time, you do your firewalking, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Time goes by, and you begin to start thinking this doesn't get any better until this pops up in your email. This is a 5-figure event. One or two of you may know of it. This gives you the opportunity to go and spend time with Tony and other people like you, who can afford it, and really go deep. And you have a great time, and you tell everybody about it. And time goes by, weeks go by, months go by, and you think that's it. The pinnacle has been reached until you get this turn up in your inbox. And this is big. This is your opportunity to spend time with Tony at his home in Fiji, with a few other people who can afford a huge amount of money to go with this. That, guys and girls, is a value ladder. That's an extreme value ladder, but it's a value ladder. Now, let's put this into context. Let's look at other professionals like you. Let's look at the value ladder for a dentist. For most dentists, they're using the internet these days to attract people in. When my dad was a dentist in private practice in Dorking, they did no advertising. The only way they attracted new patients was through word of mouth. My dad had a few A-list actors and actresses as patients, and so they would tell their other A-list actresses and actor friends, and so that's how he attracted. But today they use the internet. Yes, they get referrals, but they use the internet. But they've got to attract people in. So a lot of dentists these days will offer some very high value upfront for free. So what you find is a lot of dentists will give away a free teeth cleaning session, maybe even free teeth whitening. They'll do it for, say, 3 months. So a 3-month program, free teeth whitening. Now, there was a time where teeth whitening could only be afforded by people like Tony Robbins. Today, anybody can do it, but it still comes at a cost. So they are offering high value for free to get you in the building. They give you a great service. They treat you really well. They ask for video testimonials, which they put on their Instagram, on their Facebook, on their LinkedIn, and so forth. So it makes it, if you've been treated really nicely, it makes it so much more likely that you are going to want to stick around with that dentist and start paying for the much more expensive stuff. What they want to be doing is getting you on board to do the cosmetic stuff. They, right at the top of this, they want you to pay a monthly subscription, because the subscription model wins hands down every time. What about the value ladder for a chiropractor? It's a similar sort of process. Yeah, they get you in the building, free consultation, maybe a free massage. But what they're really trying to do is to build the relationship so that you get to know them, get to like them, get to trust them, so that it becomes the most natural thing in the world for you to progress up their value ladder so that you pay for their wellness retreat. So let me ask you, what do you think the value ladder for a gym might look like? Well, it's pretty obvious. I mean, the value ladder for most gyms, for most health clubs, actually has a start date. And that start date is what? January the 1st. It's always the beginning of the year. They get you in for free. But what they really want to do is give you a great experience so that ultimately you move up the ladder. Yes, you pay for membership, but you also pay for personal coaching, wellness advice, all that kind of stuff as well. Now, this is my value ladder for financial advisors. This is how I attract financial advisors into my world. It all starts down the bottom. The bottom step of my value ladder is the Life Talk Facebook group. It's free, but most financial advisors tell me the value that they're getting in that group is off the scale. There's nothing you could want to know about how to run a successful financial advice business that isn't in that group or can't be answered if you go. It's absolutely free. I barely put any content in there at all these days. You, the members, put the content in, and that community creates the value. It's absolutely free. I offer ebooks, free guides, simple kind of stuff that helps people. I have a scorecard. I'm going to show you a scorecard a little bit later. Then maybe there's a webinar like this one today. And there's books. So the green things are free. The blue things you pay for, but they're not exactly expensive, but they could be free. I do free webinars. I do give away books for free. Somebody's going to get a couple of books at the end of this when you stay to the end. Then perhaps a live workshop. Some of you have been on my live workshops. Anything in black there, you pay for. Anything in red is reassuringly expensive. Not everybody's going to go to the weekend retreat. Not everybody is going to end up on Tony Robbins' platinum thing, but everybody starts at the bottom. If I just had a website that just said, financial advisors, why not join me on my weekend marketing retreat where we take a deep dive into marketing, and it's going to cost you a huge amount of money. If I just put that on a website, no one's going to buy that. What I have to do is tease people into my world through free stuff that is of high value so that you can gradually progress up the value ladder. So what could a financial advisor do? What sort of value ladder could a financial advisor offer? Well, here's just a suggestion of things that you could do. The free e-guides, for want of a better word, the lead magnet that is on your website or not on your websites, as the case may be. A free tips book, a free e-book, maybe even write a book. I've got 15 financial advisors that I'm coaching through writing and publishing books at this moment. You could do an audiobook. You could do a podcast. You could create YouTube videos, a challenge. I'll show you an example of someone who's doing a challenge. You can see what we're doing here is gradually progressing up the list where the content you are providing to people becomes higher and higher value. So I go back to that marketing map that I showed earlier. What most people are doing at the moment is being encouraged to just chuck free content out there into the world in the hope that it will attract people. Where what we should really be thinking about is some sort of marketing strategy where we use our content strategically. One of the biggest tricks that I think financial advisors have missed over many years, although it is changing now, is the idea that, I mean, you have a huge amount of expertise. If there's one thing we have got right in this profession, albeit in a kind of clumsy sort of way, is the striving towards professional standards and professional qualifications. Super important. You do a lot of work to become a financial planner. You take a lot of exams to be a financial advisor. And that has value, and that is value that you can sell to people. Financial planning, financial advice really should not be something that is only ever done between consenting adults, either in the client's home or your office, or over Zoom for that matter. You have expertise, and that expertise can be repackaged and sold or given away in a variety of different formats. And what you're seeing here on the right is a list of those different formats. So I know a financial planner out in the States who used to be a financial planner like anybody else. He used to attract clients in a variety of different ways, but he started putting on seminars and workshops, and then he started charging for his seminars and workshops, and he now does weekend symposiums. The cost of a weekend symposium is $20,000. He charges people $20,000. Now, it's pretty high end. It's at a real high quality hotel. He'll get in expert speakers. You have great meals. You have some wellness programs. You get your money's worth. But he has decided that that's a great way for him to sell his expertise as a financial planner, repackaging the expertise you've got and either giving it away or selling it in a variety of different formats. And webinars are a perfect way to do both of those. There is one other thing that I've not put on that list, which I'm going to show you a little bit later, which offers incredibly high value for free, but we'll come on to that. Martin Bamford, part of his value ladder, writing books. You know, he wrote 3 books when he was quite young, I think before he was even the age of 30. There's nothing in those books that most financial advisors don't know, that isn't in most financial advisors' heads. Yeah, I know that the thought of sitting down to write a book it sounds like quite a big deal, but it's a process. Follow the process. It's easy. Genuinely, it is easy. Follow the process, write the book. And having a book will be the best business card that you ever have. Catherine Morgan, a rising star in the financial planning world. She uses Facebook extensively, but she offers a variety of different ways to bring people into her world. So she does like this 5-day free challenge. Identify what kind of relationship you have with money. Unlock self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Give you 100% confidence and control with money. Pay yourself. All those kind of things that you guys and girls already do. But what she's doing is repackaging it and giving it away or selling it to attract people into her world, so that people get to know her, get to like her, get to trust her, and make it much more likely that they will want to continue working with her in a variety of different ways. Many of you will know Pete Matthew. He's had his YouTube for must be over 10 years now, something like that. He's now doing podcasts as well. Podcast on personal finance. You know, I have to put my hands up. I would be one of the first to put my hands up and say, who on earth is going to want to listen to a podcast on personal finance? I mean, how wrong could I have been? Peter's had millions, literally millions of downloads from his podcast that he does now, his Meaningful Money podcast. He tells me that it has turned into a lead generation machine. But here's the thing. What he does not get is people getting in touch with him and saying, Pete, I heard your podcast. Could you just tell me if I'm being ripped off on my credit card charges? He says he doesn't get those sort of inquiries. What he gets is inquiries from his perfect dream ideal clients. Now, sure, it takes some work to put a podcast together, but it's a process like anything else. And you start small. You start by pressing a button on your mobile phone and recording, and then you progress up the ladder. You start small. When Pete started doing his videos on YouTube, by his own admission, he said they were a bit clunky, they were a bit rubbishy, but he said, I quickly realized that the production values were nothing like as important as the content and the value that I was giving away. And there was no financial advice, no financial promotions. It was just simple personal finance education. And education is key. Remember the little book from Gordon's Gin? That was about educating people. Pete has some other things on his value ladder as well. Yes, he's got a couple of ebooks there as well. I mean, look at that. How hard could that be to do? 3 steps to financial freedom. Each and every one of you watching this could come up with something like that in less than an hour. Simple, simple stuff. Then he's got his own online community on Facebook where people are asking questions about money. He barely needs to interact and engage with people at all. It's a community where people are interested in the topic of money. And then, of course, he's created the Meaningful Money Handbook as well. And then he's got something a bit more expensive, which is like an online course, the Meaningful Academy, where he talks about different software tools and how to grow and manage your wealth. So what he's doing there is taking the expertise that he has got, which is exactly the same expertise that each and every one of you's got, and he's turning it into something else that is of high value to both existing clients and to potential clients as well. And he's got a nice website for it, lovely jubbly. Now, here's the thing about most financial advisor marketing. It doesn't work. It gets unpredictable results. It's unscalable. It's really random. It's mostly ineffective. And because of all that, it's pretty stressful. And that's why the #1 topic of conversation in our online forums amongst financial advisors is continually about marketing and lead generation. We're constantly looking. If we could find things that actually worked, it would be far less stressful. So what we really want is predictable results, activities that are scalable, that are a bit more strategic, actually work, and make us confident that we can turn it on and turn it off at a moment's notice. So the research that I've done and that Michael Kitces in the United States has done tends to identify some specific activities that work for 2 different types of financial advisor. The top strategies for top performing advisors tend to be referrals, but with a strategy, writing books, seminars, webinars, client events, web listings, introducers and joint ventures, LinkedIn, search engine optimization, funnel websites with lead magnets, and hiring agencies and consultants. Now that's fine, but what if you're new to the profession, or maybe you're struggling a little bit? What works for you? Referrals, introducers and joint ventures. You know, in this country, most financial advisors pay lip service to working with professional introducers. We've kind of got relationships, but we haven't. We're nothing like as strategic as we could be. Local advertising works really well. Web listings, seminars, webinars, client events, good old-fashioned networking when we're allowed to do that. LinkedIn, content and books, and we're starting to see more and more people writing books, and good old-fashioned, old-school, non-digital stuff. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take Keith Churchhouse of Chapters in Guildford, the Roundabout King. Keith has sponsored, I'm not sure if he still is, but he used to sponsor a roundabout just outside Guildford. We've all seen sponsored roundabouts, haven't we? And, you know, that's a smart thing to do, sponsor a roundabout, because people coming into work in Guildford, he says the number of eyeballs on his logo on that roundabout is like thousands and thousands and thousands a day. And he combines that with radio interviews with the local Surrey radio, and he says it was just a perfect marketing thing. I mean, how old school is that? Nothing digital about it. Proper old school marketing. And here's the thing, old school marketing still works. We all feel under this pressure that we should be using social media and fancy digital stuff all the time, when guess what? The old stuff still works. So let's just have a look at some of this and see if we tick any boxes as to what actually works. What we're really aiming for is a marketing activity that ticks the low cost box, the predictable box, and the effective box. And let's just highlight the ones that do. LinkedIn, low cost, yes. Is it simple? Well, it is if you know what you're doing. Is it predictable? It is if you know what you're doing. Is it scalable? If you know what you're doing. Is it effective? Yes. Seminars, yes, yes, yes. You can see for yourself the things that work there. But what we're really looking for is a marketing activity that ticks all those columns. And the only one that I can think of time and time again is webinars. So let's have a look at those. What have they got in common? They are educational. Seminars work because they're educational. Books work because they're educational. Webinars work because they're educational. A little red leather book works because it's educational. So how can financial advisors really benefit from this? There are clear benefits, time and time again, to do this. You can do all your marketing in 1 hour a quarter. Yeah, it's as simple as that. 1 hour a quarter, or 1 hour a month, or even 30 minutes a week. You decide. But webinars are so powerful at adding value to existing clients and attracting new clients and increasing the number of referrals you get. You can turn it on and turn it off at will. Super cheap to do. If we were putting on this as a live event today in London or somewhere like that, I would have to hire the venue. I'd have to get the lunch in, have to pay for that. You guys would have to all pay for your travel. I would be charging you more to attend. So webinars are super cheap. In fact, you could argue that they're free to do. So no travel. You can talk to one-to-many at one go. Incredibly scalable. Just do more of them. Automate them as well. Do live ones, do recorded ones. The right attendees turn up by definition, because only people who are interested in the topic that you're going to talk about are going to register for your event. They will turn up for the event because they are getting value from you, the expert. And it also gives you, the expert, to build relationships with other experts. Perhaps you want to do a webinar where you do an interview, something like that, with other people. When you do a webinar, it establishes your authority. Writing a book establishes your authority. Writing a blog or an article establishes your authority. And putting on webinars establishes your authority. It's a great way of building trust. It's just like, if you can imagine that you've got a room full of people at a seminar. One of the reasons people go to seminars is because they want to get to know simple human things like, do they like you? Can they get a sense of, could they trust you? It's exactly the same on a webinar. Webinars are highly engaging. You can use a variety of different techniques to engage people. I mean, if we had more time, I would maybe giving you some work to do. We'd have some breakout rooms. We could do more questions and answers. There's a variety of different things that you can do to engage with people. I could show you more videos. There's a whole bunch of stuff. By putting on webinars, you are offering something new that enhances your brand value. You will get leads from it. Trust me, you'll get leads. It builds long-term relationships with clients as well. It's an alternative, if you like, to the email newsletter. And there is a natural next step for people once they have attended your webinar. There are a few statistics that float about. Depends, there are tons and tons of statistics, but 73% of marketers agree webinars are second only to live events. Up to 100%, up to 40% of your webinar attendance is made up of qualified leads, 100% when targeting existing leads. So 100% of the attendees to your webinar will be qualified leads if you are targeting your existing clients. And 56% of webinar attendees take a clear action afterwards. It's higher for live events. As I said, if you put on a decent seminar, you'll get high 80+% people take action afterwards. And that action can be a variety of different things. It could be they make an appointment with you. They might refer somebody else. They might give you a testimonial. They do a variety of things. Here's Jeff. He's with Alliance Wealth Management over in the United States. He used to do live seminars, and he used to put a lot of time and effort into them. They used to cost him an awful lot of money. And then he decided, right, I'm going to give webinars a go. And he put on his first webinar, 23rd of June, 377 people registered. Now, he had already got quite a big email list. So 377 people registered, 76 people turned up, which is a pretty good conversion rate for that. But don't get too stressed about the numbers. My advice, if this is your first time putting on a webinar, is start small. If you write to 10 people and 3 decide to turn up to your webinar, well done, congratulations. So don't stress about the numbers, they're not important. And after his webinar, 3 people scheduled a call. In fact, during the webinar, he put a link alongside where people could actually schedule the call. 3 more scheduled within 2 days. Those 6 calls had $2.2 million in instantly investable assets. He identified almost 5 million of assets, and 3 people immediately wanted to invest $1 million of assets. So he got business out of it. The clients, the attendees got value out of it. And that is the key. It is a two-way thing. It's not just a marketing model for you. So let's look at the different types of webinar model. Now, some of you may be familiar with different webinar models. I think most of us have attended a webinar, particularly the more American style webinar, which tends to be like an hour of content and an hour of not pressure sales, but it's a fairly serious upsell. Now, this is how a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly in the United States and increasingly the UK, make their money. They put on a free webinar, they give you some content, and then they say to you, look, if you want personal attention, you pay, and I'll show you how to do it. And that's fine. A lot of people make a great deal of money doing it that way. So that's the traditional model, medium to large group, no cameras are on. It's just a straight PowerPoint screen share, 50% content, 50% upsell, free to attend. And they do live ones and they do recorded ones on a loop. There's a variation on that, medium to large group, no cameras except the host. Again, screen share of information. Maybe there's an interactive whiteboard, and that's one of the great things about live seminars is that you use a big sheet of paper, you draw on it, you draw on a board, make it a bit more interactive. 85% content, and then a very professional offer, not a salesy thing, but a professional offer. It's free to end, and it is only available live. And when you market an event like that, the fact that there will be no recording actually encourages a lot of people to attend. Another model, a newer model, is a small to large group, no cameras, straight screen share of information, 100% content, in other words, no sales element whatsoever. It's free to attend, live and recorded. And the variation on that is pretty well the version we're doing today. Small to large group, no cameras, screen share of information, 100% content. You pay to attend, you get a copy afterwards. It's live right now, and we're doing a recording. So there's a variety of different models, and you choose the one that you think will work best in your business. For most financial advisors, I think this is the sort of model that will work pretty well. Small to large group, we're not trying to sell anything, but just the fact that you're doing it will actually get you some more inquiries. Clients who are people already clients will come forward again and said, do you know, now that you've been talking about that, I don't think I've told you about this investment or this idea or this plan that I've got. So existing clients step forward again, and existing clients recommend other people to you. There's another type of method as well, which is called the boardroom briefing approach, where it's a small group. We're talking no more than 10. It's a straight information share. The host has got the camera on. There's no upsell. It's live and it's free or chargeable. And another version is small group. It's an information share, but it's much more interactive. People are doing things. They're talking together. All the cameras are on, so everybody can see each other. No upsell. It's live and it's free or chargeable. Now, it may well be that a financial advisor might start with that model, and later down the line, once you're comfortable doing it, you might want to do one of these models as well, particularly the chargeable version as well. And this is an interesting step where you say, okay, there will be, and this is always the case, you will always have in your client bank a really small number of people who are prepared to pay more for more value, for more attention, for more time with you. So that's kind of worth thinking about. So if we go back to that model, the value ladder, the staircase going up, that's fairly near the bottom. And one of those will be further up the value ladder. Yeah. Have a think about that. Another model is the interview model. So you're doing your presentation, so you're doing a webinar. This could be a weekly thing, a monthly thing, a quarterly thing. But another model is to include an interview either with an expert, and super easy to do that with Zoom these days, or maybe you can talk to an existing client or local business person. You decide what's going to be most appropriate and will give the most amount of value for your clients. Okay, this is critical that you get this bit. It is absolutely vital that you have really clear objectives. And this goes for if you're putting on a seminar, a real life seminar in person. This is exactly the same for webinars as well. You have to have two clear objectives. You need to have an objective for you, the financial advisor, your firm, and you need to have an objective for your attendees. The objective for you, what is it that you're trying to do with this webinar? Is it greater communication? Is it to strengthen relationships, highlight your expertise, add value, attract more clients? Write it down. If you don't write it down, you don't have a clear objective, I promise you will get fewer attendees because the focus of your promotions, well, that focus just simply won't be there. It's as simple as that. And you also need to write down what is it that you want your clients or attendees to do as a result of attending the webinar. Is it to recommend and refer? Is it maybe to make an appointment? Is it to give testimonials? You decide, okay? Two clear objectives, one for you, one for your attendee, and write it down. For goodness sake, write it down. If you've not done one of these before, I recommend that you put a date in. If you decide, right, I'm going to do this, put a date in the diary 3 months from now. If you're going to do a live seminar and you've not done any before, put a date in the diary 5 months from now. This might sound quite a long time, but if you've not done one before, you know, the best will in the world, you've still got a business to run, you've still got clients to see, you're going to faff around, you're going to make a few notes. It's going to take you some time to think about this. So don't leave it to the last minute, do some planning. But at the end of the day, if I said to each and every one of you, I'm going to give you 20 minutes to decide from now what you're going to do a webinar on, who it's going to be for, and to choose a date. You could do that. You could do all of that in 20 minutes. But I'm going to be generous. I'm going to give you 3 months to really think about it, get it right, to practice your presentation and all that good stuff. Other things you need to think about in your planning: how often are you going to do this? Is this going to be a one-off, which I recommend you do not do? How often are you going to do it? What are you going to talk about? How are you going to do it? Are you going to script it out? Are you going to use PowerPoint? Which webinar model are you going to use? Which platform? There's a variety of different webinar platforms that you can use out there. We're using Zoom today. Just bear with me. Someone's asked a question. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Is this recorded, Gareth? Yes, it is. There are engineers in the building. Webinar Jam is another one. Absolutely right. Fantastic. Good. Okay, that's enough for now. So there's a variety of different tools. They've all got benefits. They've all got disadvantages. Zoom, those of you using Zoom, as you know, you can use Zoom for free. But if you want the webinar model of Zoom, you pay 30 quid and you can do as many webinars as you like for a month. So you pay your money, you take your choice. Just go onto YouTube, ask and search for reviews on the different platforms. So they've all got benefits, they've all got disadvantages. You will need to have a landing page, a booking page, and a thank you page. Now you could do that on your website, or you can create them separately using tools like ClickFunnels or Lead Pages or any of these sort of instant website. You could do it on Wix. So this is super cheap to do. A landing page is quite simply your promotional page. Those of you that signed up for this, you saw my landing page, and the way I did that was the long form copy. You'll notice it was told a bit like a story, an observation. It took you step by step. That's one way of doing promotions. Another way to do promotions is really short and sharp. Really simple. There's a variety of different ways of doing it. There's no right way of doing it. There's no wrong way of doing it. But if you're starting out by promoting your webinar to your clients, you could just as easily do this by email or by telephone, a variety of different, however you feel comfortable doing it. But that's all very well saying, how are you comfortable with it? It's also worth bearing in mind, how would your clients like to receive information about this? It's worth doing surveys from time to time with your clients and actually asking them about their communication preferences. You know, more and more of them are happy to be communicated by WhatsApp these days, through FaceTime, through Zoom, through email, video email. Actually ask your clients, how would they like to receive information? You also, as part of your planning, you need to think about, what are you going to do immediately after your webinar? Are you going to send follow-up emails? Are you going to send a follow-up video? Are you going to send a copy of the slides? You decide what you're going to do, but it's important that you plan that, so you don't just do the webinar and leave them hanging there, because the idea of the follow-up is that it will prompt some people who haven't got around to it yet to want to chat with you. Really, where we're going with this is we're putting on this value piece for them so that it gives you an opportunity to have conversations with your attendees, conversations. And that also is what LinkedIn is all about these days. LinkedIn is about acting in a certain way, certain behaviors, certain things that you do on the platform that gets to a point where you have a conversation with people. That's what it's all about. You also want to think about, what else could I do with my webinar? Could I record it and put it out as a podcast? Could I record it and sell it? There's a variety of different things that you could do with the webinar once you've recorded it. Another thing you could do is you could transcribe the webinar and turn that into a blog, an article, a white paper, a special report, even a book. Yeah, even a book, simple as that. And something else you might want to think about is branding your webinar as well. If you're going to do this on a regular basis, think about maybe give it a fancy name, a catchy name, get a nice logo for it. Again, you don't need to spend any money on that. Just go to canva.com, choose some ready-made logos. And if you're going to do this, I would suggest commit yourself to it, enjoy the ride, enjoy doing it, and add it to your value proposition that you offer to clients. What content could you include in your webinars and indeed lead magnets that you give away to people? Surprise, surprise, ask your clients. How about that? If you're doing surveys with clients, or maybe the first time you ever meet a client, actually ask them the question and say, look, we're planning on doing some regular webinars. We're thinking of doing one on this topic, this topic, this topic, this topic. What would you like to hear about? And make a note of it. Another thing I'm really big on at the moment is every time a client ever asks you a question, write it down in a little book. It might sound odd. People ask us questions all the time and we answer them by email, by phone, whatever, but make a note of it. The questions that your clients ask you over the period of time of the relationship you have with them are absolutely invaluable in telling you what they're interested in. So listen to their questions. Another great way to find out what people are interested in, there's a superb website, if you've not seen it, called answerthepublic.com, where it collates questions that people ask on Google and on search engines around particular topics. So you could go to answerthepublic.com and you could type pensions into the box there, and it will show you hundreds and hundreds of different questions that people ask on search engines about pensions. Questions which 99 times out of 100, you as a financial advisor would be able to answer. But those list of questions give you great material that you could use for content for your webinars and lead magnets such as guides and ebooks and stuff like that. If that's a tactic that's of interest to you, there's a great book by Marcus Sheridan called They Ask, You Answer. Absolutely superb, well worth getting. I hope you're finding this useful. Hope you're getting some value out of it. Thanks for sticking around. So What results do you help individuals, families, or organizations achieve? This is a question that you need to know the answer to as a financial advisor firm. Be really, really clear about what it is that you offer. Now, I know you know what you offer, but actually being super clear about it and writing it down really is a light bulb moment for many, many financial advisors. And once you've got that absolute supreme focus, it gives you all sorts of other ideas for content that you can use in webinars. One of the things that a lot of people discover when they first write their own book, and the financial advisors on our book writing program that we've got at the moment, have all discovered that by thinking about writing a book and actually starting to write a book makes them look at their own business in a kind of new light. It makes them suddenly realize, they kind of remember again why they went into this. It gives them a great realization of what they are passionate about. It gives them a great realization of the things they really care about, the things they're really good at. So really brainstorming, what result do you help individuals, families, or organizations achieve is a real eye-opener and a great starting point for your seminars. Okay, so who do you target? Well, depends on your objectives for your seminar. Remember we said, for your webinar, remember we said earlier, write down your objectives for you. So who you target depends on your objectives. For 99 out of 100 financial advisors, the main group that you should target is your existing clients. And whether you have just 10 clients or 10,000 clients, they're the people you start with. Maybe they're friends, so you could maybe incentivize your existing clients to recommend your webinar to their friends, professional connections, local businesses, your current email list, your connections on LinkedIn, your Facebook friends, and you could do some of this through advertising as well. Those are typically the people, but most of you, the top 3 or 4 is the list to go. Many, many financial advisors simply don't have an email list. They have a list of existing clients, but they don't have a list of people who visited their website who might one day want to become a client. And the reason they don't have that list is because they've not offered a lead magnet or something of value to people in exchange for their email address. We've all done it, haven't we? We've all gone to websites where it says, download our free guide, 20 ways to be a better lover or whatever it is. And we hand over our email address. They've got your email address. You've got a piece of value. It may be in time that you want to work with the provider of that particular service, but it's really important that financial advisors build up an email list over time. But the vast majority of financial advisor websites, they're not doing that. Some will have a little box that say, oh, you can register for our email newsletter. Trust me, an email newsletter is not a lead magnet by a long shot. You actually have to write something down. It could be a page long. It could be 5 pages, 500 pages. Just get something. Now, here's another thing. If I was to give you an exercise, if we were all in a room together right now, I would say, right, let's take the next 20 minutes to create a lead magnet. I would like each and every one of you in the room to write down 10 ways that someone can increase their income in retirement. Now, each and every one of you could do that without even thinking about it. But here's the point. You've then written down something that is of real value to someone who doesn't yet know you, someone who would gladly exchange their email address for that piece of value. Even better, if you've got a niche market, maybe as a financial planner, you've got a real tight niche market. Maybe you only do retirement planning for heart surgeons in West London. Yeah. So write down 20 ways or 10 ways for heart surgeons in West London to increase their retirement increase their income in retirement. You could do that because you have the expertise, you have the knowledge, you have the wherewithal. So each and every one of you could do that. Create a lead magnet. And I know lead magnet sounds a bit salesy, but that's what it is at the end of the day. It is something that someone will exchange their email address in exchange for a piece of value. And if you've been doing that for the last few years, you'll have a list of email addresses, and they are people who you could also target for your webinar. How do we promote it? Well, we promote it in a variety of different ways. Ideally, we would promote our webinar in the way that your clients have told you they would like to receive information. In practice, that'll mean a combination of all of these things here. Yeah, email, phone, good old-fashioned letters. Postcards are good. Don't forget postcard marketing. Just go, if you want to know about postcard marketing, it still works. Amazingly powerful. Go onto Google, YouTube, and look about postcard marketing. It just works. You could create postcard reminders to clients to turn up for the webinar, tell people in your review meetings, video emails, your website, your email signature. I don't need to read through all of these things, except for the bottom one is that it's always a good idea to incentivize people to come along to the workshop. I learned very early on as a broker consultant in London when I used to put on seminars in the Zurich building when I worked for Zurich. We had a great head office off Fenchurch Street, and I used to invite financial advisors in central London to come along to a seminar. And we'd got a fund manager there, we'd got an underwriter, we'd got the CEO, and I would just send out invites to financial advisors. They'd turn up, and I very, very quickly learned the power of a bacon roll to get bums on seats. And yes, it's as simple as that. So come up with some incentives for people, something free that they will get simply for turning up. And it could be a copy of your 2-page guide on investing for dummies. What you can think of it, think about your clients. What would they find of use? Create it. It could be a short course, something that you record, something on video. The sky's the limit. Come up with something that you offer to people to turn up to register for your seminar. And all of you were offered something that you will get after this webinar. I'm going to make sure that you all get copies of the Financial Advisor Mastermind and Challenge, the videos. And that was one of the incentives that I used to encourage you to join me today. The good news is that social media has got some promotional tools as well. So Facebook's got its own events tool. LinkedIn has recently relaunched its events tool. So if you want to reach a slightly broader market, you can use these tools to promote your webinars. You need to have the registration page is quite important. So what I've just summed up here, and we could talk for hours about what to write and the actual copywriting, the words, but it's easier if I just show you what actually works on a registration page. So if you know your clients, you will know what they worry about. You will know what they are scared about. If you really, really know your ideal dream client, you will know what they are worried about right now, this very moment. So your webinar needs to address that. It needs to speak to their concerns. You also need to turn it around the other way. So you're speaking to their pain, for want of a better word, but what you also need to is speak to their hope. Paint a picture of what life could be like, or how those worries and concerns will be taken off their shoulders when they attend this webinar. You need to aggravate the problem. Again, this is where this starts to sound a little bit salesy, but this is just pure copywriting. What we're trying to do is not just say, we're putting on a webinar on the 1st of December about how to increase your pensions in retirement. Click here, join now. I mean, that can work if you've got clients who are absolute raving fans who will sign up for anything that you have to offer. What I'm saying is you've got to sell it a bit. Yeah, you've got to put a bit more effort into that. Yeah. You also need to show why you're the expert. This is quite often something people forget about. One of the reasons why when people put on seminars is they forget to talk about who the speakers are. The speaker is one of the main draws. The topic is an important draw, but who's presenting it is one of the main draws as well. So you need to talk about who's doing the webinar. I guess that's going to be you. Any special guests that you've got, talk about them as well. So paint a little picture as to why you're the expert, why you're the person, why you're qualified to present this webinar. Simple description of how the webinar is going to help people. And you also use some action words. You will be able to, as a result of attending this webinar, you will be able to, as a result of this webinar, you'll learn how to, you'll do this. Use strong action words like that. There needs to be a call to action. And that can be as simple as click here, sign here, register now. You should join us here, alongside the incentive. In an ideal world, if you can do all that on video and put the video on your landing page, even better. Most of the top webinar marketers, the people who just do webinars for a living, they always have a video that covers off all these key points here. So that's kind of the model that you need to follow. Understand what their worries are, speak to those worries and their concerns, maybe aggravate the problem. So talk about how, the problem's not going to go away by itself, but there is a solution, and we can show you case studies, how other people like you have been able to sort out their problems. Another great tool that you can use is put a quick quiz or a survey, and I'll show you a tool that you can use that's absolutely amazing. The reason why you put a quick quiz or a survey on your landing page is for one reason and one reason alone. It is to get people to physically engage with your website, to actually click something, to actually do something. And all the statistics show is if you can get people to actually do something on your website, actually click something, actually tap something, they are significantly more likely to stick around for longer and to do whatever it is you want them to do. So your survey can be as simple as a question like, how did you hear about us? And you give them some choices, newsletter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Information that's useful to you, but actually you're not going to pay any attention to. All we're trying to do is to get them to touch, engage, tap with your website. And once they've done that, they are significantly more likely to register. So simple set, but I'll show you something quite soon that takes this to a whole nother level, which will get you leads in its own right. Hope you stay for that. Okay, so overview of the actual presentation itself. So let's assume you're using Zoom. I would recommend for most financial advisors 40 to 45 minutes, but 90 minutes is fine. Don't be worried about that, but certainly no longer than that. 90 minutes is absolutely fine for most financial advisors. You've got to remember the topic that you're dealing with. To some extent, there could be numbers involved, but 40 to 45 minutes is about right. You do need to get on with it. Those of you that have been on a lot of webinars will observe that the best first half an hour can quite often be dedicated to the person introducing themselves, but it is very important that you do introduce yourself. What's important is that people start to buy into you as a person. So a little story is always a good thing to do. So let's think back to the beginning of this webinar today. What was the first thing I did? I told a little story about how my dad said, what you're going to do, you're not going to bum around here. I told you that I was quite interested in photography, rock concert photography. My dad was having none of it. I'm going to have a proper job. So I told you a little story. And so psychologically, deep inside your psyche, hopefully you were starting to connect with me at a more human level. Really important that you do that. The benefit of the webinar has to be super clear in the title of the webinar. I'll give you an example of that. And we need to think about promotion. So let's just expand on it. So if I was putting on a webinar on why you need to be putting on webinars, this would be my title. I would say something like, how my internet marketing clients around the world are using webinars to predictably generate quality inbound new client inquiries. Because that is exactly what happens when you start using webinars. So super clear title that has got clear benefits in it. Nothing too washy, nothing too wishy-washy. Your agenda for your webinar needs to look something like this. You need to have a welcome message. Just quickly, like I did, I welcomed a few of you. I then went on to ask you just to make sure everybody could hear me. So in other words, we need to do a tech check. But there's two reasons why we're doing that. Well, first of all is we want to make sure the tech actually does work. But what we're also doing is we're just getting a little bit of engagement from people right from the very start. One or two of you said, yes, I can hear you. So right from the start, one or two of you actually started engaging. I invited you then, if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to answer questions. And by the way, if I haven't answered any questions for you today, just feel free to drop me a line afterwards and I'll happily get back to you if there's something I've missed that you wanted answering. You also need to say to people, stay to the end, and maybe that's when they get their incentive. But there's a psychological reason for doing that, because it's more like an instruction than anything else. Yes, there's an incentive to stay to the end, but if I'm saying to you, please stay to the end, it makes it much more likely that you will stay to the end. I then state who this is for, in this case, financial advisors. I talk a little bit about myself, my story, my journey. Then we get into the market summary. This is why this webinar is needed. This is why we're here today talking about retirement planning. This is why we're here today talking about what's going on in the investment market. So talk about what's going on, provide some background, and explain the problem. And the problem is one of the reasons, one of the worries invariably why people, they're there. I mean, they wouldn't have attended if they didn't have a concern or they didn't want to know something about a particular issue. We then need to break down belief patterns. And by that, I mean, we need to answer their objections before they ask them. A lot of people who attend events put on by financial advisors, whether they are online events or in-person events, they have got their own preconceived beliefs about the topic. So for example, if you were a mortgage advisor and you were going to put on some webinars or seminars about, I don't know, the joys of equity release, there will be a lot of people who go, well, I'll happily attend, but I don't believe for a moment in equity release. I think it's bad for people. So as part of the presentation, you need to answer their questions, answer their objections before they bring them up. So those objections, you should know what those objections are going to be. If you're putting on a webinar on equity release, you should know what the common objections are. Another thing to do in your agenda is to, as part of your webinar, is to include common myths, okay? A common myth about equity release is this. Another common myth about XYZ is this. Talk about common myths, but don't make it all sweetness and light and that things are rosy. So if you were doing a webinar about equity release, acknowledge people's issues and queries and objections. Talk about the common myths, but say this is right for this type of person, but it definitely is not right for this type of person. One type of investment is right for one type of person, but it is definitely not right for another. So be brave enough to explain the downsides of what you're talking about, but people will respect you for that as well. Then some case studies. Case studies provide proof, and ideally your case studies should be clients who already work with you around a particular topic. You don't need to mention them by name, but sometimes it's a great thing to do. If you're putting on live seminars, a really good thing to do is to actually do live case studies with real life clients. There are some clients who are more than happy to come along and talk about their personal situations. Give away the freebie at the end and politely and professionally say, offer them a consultation call. That is broadly speaking the model that you can follow for the sort of webinar that will be right for a financial advisor. So follow that, fill in the boxes, yeah? Now, it's what happens afterwards is where this starts to get, I wouldn't say tricky, but it's important that we get this right, really important. So what we would like to happen in an ideal world, I mean, if it is the case that you are putting on your webinar purely as an educational thing and you don't actually want the clients or some people to step forward and talk to you, that's fine. But for most financial advisors, they would hope that something would happen afterwards. So say to people, you can book a call with me and offer your Calendly diary or however your scheduler, your diary scheduler, offer that up for people to use. Just got a quick question here. Let's have a look, see what someone's asking here. No worries, Steve, you can't make it. That's absolutely fine. If you set a date for a webinar, how soon should you start marketing it? That's a really good question. A month out is a good place to start. If you're putting on a real seminar, 3 months out is a good place to start. But a month for a webinar is fine. But if you're only targeting your existing clients, you can, if they know this is part of your schedule, they know this is part of your value, they know that the thing is coming. And this is one of the great things about social media and digital content that works, is where it is consistent, where people are actually expecting it. So we go back to Pete Matthews' podcast. People are expecting it at a certain time on a certain day. Make it consistent. So if you're doing regular webinars to your existing clients, let it be known that they are the first Thursday of every month or once a week on a Friday morning. You choose. It's up to you to do that. Okay. So offer people the opportunity. You could do this on an email, or you could give them the actual link on the final slide so that people can actually book a call with you straight away. Now, we need to manage and set expectations. Now, this is really, really important, because it is all very well putting on a webinar. It is all very well saying we want people to take action afterwards. We would possibly like some new leads and inquiries, but we want to get the right inquiries. We don't want every man, woman, and their dogs to turn up, because you might actually get some people you don't want as clients. So this is the point where we start to filter people. This is the point where we quite deliberately try to stop some people from signing up. So we need to set some expectations. So you can actually use the words, if you'd like to book a call with me, here's what will happen when we talk. Here's what will not happen. For example, I'm not going to try and sell you something. I'm not going to charge you for something. Here's what I will need from you. Maybe I'd like you to do some research, or I'd like you to give me half an hour of your time, something like that. So this is where you start becoming a slightly more authoritative figure. And so some people, when you start saying things like this, they will go, oh, fine, that's not me. So that's not one for me. Maybe we'll save it for another day. Because we don't just want any Tom, Dick, and Harry signing up for our call. We want quality people. So one of the things you could do is use some text that almost create an agreement. Now, you could do this by email, or you could put it on the last slide, or on the last slide, you send a link to a page where people can book a call with you. But this is where we start doing some filtering. You could put some words, you can change these words, where the person wanting to book with you agrees to this. Yes, I understand the primary reason for meeting with Sue, yes, you, the financial advisor, is to find out if there's a fit between my needs and what she offers. I confirm that if Sue and I agree that working together is a good idea, I'm ready to start in the next few weeks or within a timescale. And I'm aware that Sue will not charge for a fee for the initial call, but that her fees for working together are X, Y, Z. It's important that people are aware that you are professional financial advisors and that you do charge a fee, and this is how you do it. And they could tick a box to sign up for that, or maybe they can't book the call until it's entirely up to you. But what we're trying to do here is filter out the people who are going to be time wasters, okay? But the people who are genuine, the people who do value you and do want your time and your expertise, they will be more than happy to sign up to something like that. So this is quite important, and it's a professional element to it. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is a couple of marketing tools that will attract attendees to your webinar, but also you can use them in your day-to-day business to bring in new inquiries, to add to your email list, and to add a great deal of value to people who don't yet know you. And these two tools I've been using this year. One of them has been possibly the biggest discovery I've come across in 20 years of being a marketing consultant to financial advisors. This thing has blown me off the scale in how effective it is and how valuable it is. The first thing is called Scorecard Marketing. And what Scorecard Marketing does, it is a simple web page where you ask complete strangers, or indeed existing clients, questions. Simple yes, no, multiple choice questions. And they have to give an answer to. And depending on their answers, they get a score. And after they've taken your test, and your test could be 10 questions long, it could be 100 questions long, the score is added up by the technology and they get a personalized report. In exchange, you've got an email address, because they have to enter their email address and their name to take the test, take the scorecard. And you've also got data, information about them. So let's just explain a bit more about that. And what this does is quite dramatically generates higher quality, higher converting leads. It enables you to understand each prospect as an individual and follow up with personalized messaging. So at the moment, what a lot of financial advisors got is a website with pictures of people flying kites, sitting on park benches, nice sunsets, that kind of stuff, and nothing to interact and engage and try and get leads off people. We've already said that one way to get to get email addresses off people is to offer a lead magnet, a high value free guide, 10 tips to increase your income in retirement, 10 ways equity release will help unlock value in your property, you know, the sort of thing. Yeah. Give us your email address. We'll give you an instant PDF guide. Now that's great and works very effectively, but scorecard marketing is amazingly effective. Just the fact that they are interacting, engaging, they are doing something, remember I talked about that earlier, is something they want to continue it. People love the idea of being scored based on answers they give. So you create your scorecard, really, really simple, with some ready-made templates. You create your questions. There's all sorts of different formats, yes, no, multiple choice, that sort of thing. Your prospects complete your scorecard on your website or wherever else. They get a PDF, as well as a web page that gives them their results. They get a PDF report that is automatically emailed to them. And as I said, you've got their name, their details, and their data, which they have freely given to you. It's completely GDPR compliant. You can then look at that data and you can decide which ones you want to follow up or not, as the case may be. You can follow it up in a variety of different ways. Now, for example, one of the things I do is I do LinkedIn lead generation training for financial advisors. I can show you how to attract more of the clients you really want by using LinkedIn. Now, I could do all sorts of free guides, and I used to do free downloads. Enter your email address, I'll give you some quick tips, then I'll phone them up, I'll talk to them, or I'll try and sell them a course. What I do now is I offer them a scorecard. And what you can do is it asks you a bunch of questions about how you use LinkedIn as a financial advisor. It gives you a score on how you use LinkedIn as a financial advisor, and then it gives you some personalized tips as to what else you could do on LinkedIn or what changes you could make on LinkedIn that will improve your experience of the site. I've got your email address, I've got your answers to your question, and I can decide, right, that financial advisor is doing really well on LinkedIn, so perhaps I don't need to follow them up, but hopefully they've got some value from their results. But the others, I can then get in touch with them and say, look, you did really well on that section, or those particular questions you weren't so good. Would you be interested in having a 90-minute call as to how we can improve that? Okay, and I get a pretty good take-up rate on that. It works out at about 20% take-up rate on that, which is superb. So simple. LinkedIn, and I've got a broader one for people who aren't financial advisors as well. And these are the sort of questions that I'm asking. Do you have a profile photo? Yes, gets you a certain number of points. No gets you no points. Yes gets you even more points. Do you have a LinkedIn strategy? No, not sure. Yes, and written down. So you go through the questions, you get your score at the end, personalized to you. You get a PDF sent to you. I get the names, I get the details. They get taken to a web page which shows them their score as to how well they've done. So this is a piece of real value for people in exchange for giving away a little bit of data about themselves. And but what I also then do is at the end, having given them their score, I say, here, to say thank you for taking the scorecard, have a free PDF copy of my book. And almost everybody takes that up. Almost everybody takes that up as well. And I also encourage them to share their score on social media as well. This is quite a new concept. There is only one supplier of scorecards in the UK. And people who are using scorecards to attract new clients or indeed to add value to existing clients are finding it absolutely amazing. So this lady here, take the test and get a score on your personal brand. How strong is your personal brand? There are 3-4 financial advisors in the UK who have even heard of this, let alone using it. There is one financial advisor, asks a few questions to people, where's your money taking you? Find out now. There's another one, they've got another one. You ask the questions, people love to create them, they love to get their score. You've got a lead, full stop. It works. I did a webinar the other day for Standard Life. Standard Life were putting on a webinar. They wanted me to do a talk about marketing for financial advisors. And I said to financial advisors on the call at the end, take my scorecard. I had 97 financial advisors take my scorecard within 10 minutes of taking. That's 97 leads sitting in my inbox. 97. It is astonishingly powerful. So I will send you a link as to where you can get that. It's as simple as that. But here's the thing. You can use scorecards as a lead magnet to attract people to your webinar. You can use it as something to add value to existing clients as well. But you can also, remember I talked earlier about the importance of building your email list. It is a phenomenal way of building your email list to people who might want to become clients in the future, but it is also a great way to build an email list to whom you can market your webinar. I said, I've been blown away at how effective that is. And there's the proof sitting in front of you. 97 people took the test within 10 minutes of me mentioning it. Really, really important. Another thing that I've discovered this year, which is up until recently could only be afforded by large corporates. If you're a small organization, like most financial advisors, the only way to offer a sort of chat facility on your website is through some sort of bot, a Facebook Messenger bot or something like that. And if any of you ever had a conversation with a bot on any provider's website, you know it's just awful. It doesn't work. I've discovered a service now where you can get live chat, managed live chat on your website. You put a tiny little bit of code in your website and real people will engage with your website visitors. Now, to set it up, you send a list of common questions that people typically ask a financial advisor at the first time they come across a financial advisor. And some really, really professional people can answer questions that people ask through your website. So we've all seen that, haven't we? We've all been on a website and a little box pops up and says, is there anything I can help you with today? 99 times out of 100, that is a bot. It's not a real person. Now, the people here, as far as financial advisors are concerned, they are not financial advisors, so they're not qualified to give financial advice. But what they are is incredibly good communicators. And what they do is they communicate with you in a way. In fact, 1 or 2 of you on this webinar today have actually used the managed chat facility on my website. I know a couple of people sent a message through to say that you weren't able to attend live today. Would they get the webinar? Now, I get a copy of the transcribed conversation, and every single time, the quality has been professional, it's been really friendly, and people have found it really, really useful. What I'm saying here is another tool that you can use, a very professional, very high quality tool that you can use that will engage with people who are on your website. And all the stats show this just works. Time and time again, people are reporting that having a managed live chat facility attracts new clients. But traditionally, this has been outside the budget of most smaller businesses, SMEs, micro businesses, just way out their league. But this is a new service that is super cheap and super effective. But again, a great way to attract new people into your business and people who potentially you could promote your webinar to. So just a quick screenshot of part of my website here today. What happens is the box at the bottom right first appears. It just says chat now. So you could ask a question if you want. And then there's a little bit of a delay. And after about 20 seconds, this other box appears. Hi, my name's Danielle. Can I help you with anything today? And what is amazing is that people actually interact and engage with Danielle or Mike or whoever it is. They have a conversation. People can ask a question. And then as soon as that conversation is finished, I get an email, a copy of the conversation and the contact details, so I can interact and engage personally. And people are usually amazed at the quality of the conversation, the quality of the service, the quality of the interaction, and then they're even more amazed if I actually follow it up in person shortly afterwards. So 2 tools that are amazing. So we're almost out of time. I really appreciate that you've been with me today. So let's just quickly sum up the benefits for financial advisors of putting on webinars. What we're fundamentally talking about is marketing, yes, attracting new clients, but what we're also talking about is adding massive value to existing clients. So you can do all your marketing. If you decided that webinars is a thing that you're going to commit yourself to, you could actually decide, actually, I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to do any of this social media nonsense. I don't need to do any more LinkedIn. I don't need to ever go to a networking event. I don't need to worry about referrals. I can just use webinars. That's it. It's super cheap, pretty well free, no travel involved, so it's COVID friendly. You can talk to a lot of people all at one time, but as I said, don't worry about size doesn't matter. If you target 10 people for your first webinar and you get 3, job done, well done. You could potentially do more and more of these things, and you could use webinars. You could use another webinar model. Maybe someone will pay to come to a webinar, something a bit more upscale. It's entirely up to you what you do. The right attendees turn up by definition, but remember at the end, we want to still filter them so that you actually only speak to the ones that you really want. They're getting real value from an expert. It gives you an opportunity to build relationships with other experts, positions you in authority, builds trust, very engaging. It enhances your brand value. It's a great source of high quality leads. It builds long-term relationships, and there's a natural next step. Yes, that natural next step is to make an appointment to talk to you. The advisor webinar model, I think you could do it like this. Choose a theme. Your theme could be building wealth. It ought to be free. I reckon you should do it monthly, though if you felt like doing it more regularly, that's fine. Use Zoom, 45 minutes max. As part of, remember I showed you the agenda there. You could also include team updates, get everybody in the business involved, market updates, make sure that educational element is in there. For example, myth busting wealth, myth busting around building wealth. There could be a theme in its own right. Interview people, but make sure you have a call to action. That would be a good model for the overwhelming majority of financial advisors. So we're about there. I would imagine that 1 or 2 of you are feeling a bit like that. I've thrown quite a lot at you. I hope you found it useful. Have a think about it. It may well be that once you've slept on this tomorrow morning, you'll have greater clarity on the right way forward for you. For those of you who would like to actually have a go at the LinkedIn health check, I'm going to follow this up, so I'll send you the link to the health check. If you would like information on how to create your own scorecard that you can embed into your website, or you can use in a variety of different ways, I'll send you a link to do that. If you want to know about managed live chat, that as well. And for those of you that would like a one-to-one consultation, that is available as well. So thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you've found that of value. I've really enjoyed being with you. Thanks for your questions. I've got a note of the questions that I haven't answered, so I'll get back to each of you there. But if you've got any questions that you're burning to ask me, please drop me a line, philip@financialadvice.marketing. And if you've enjoyed this, please don't keep me a secret. Please don't keep this a secret. If you've enjoyed it, please tell other financial advisors in our Facebook group. If you've enjoyed it, I'd love you to tell others and tell them what they've missed out on, which they could maybe get on another day. So thanks very much. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you next time.